Welcome to the Take a Listing Today podcast, where our hosts Jim Studebaker and Todd Robertson give you strategies to get you out of the office right now so you can take a new listing today. And now, here's Jim and Todd.
Hey, welcome.
And the crowd goes mild.
No, not today,
Oh,
Todd.
no.
The crowd is going to go absolutely wild because it is a wonderful podcast, number 22. Who would have thought 22 episodes of the Take a Listing Today podcast? And today is a wonderful topic. Only if you ever get hit with objections. Now, maybe we have some professionals out there who never get hit with objections. And if that's the case, maybe you want to turn off the program right now. But in case you do happen to get hit with objections, I'm twisting some words here. Our topic today is how to master the top objections in real estate. And for those of you watching on the podcast, on the webinar, all you have to do is click the little hands up button and we will break into our podcast wherever we might be to answer your questions. And we also have a couple of surprises for you if you would like to call in and be a part of our show today.
Exactly. And I want you guys listening and watching this subject right now. And I know for some people they could say, oh, it's objections. You know, I went through that in my first week of training. But think about this. Remain a student of life, right? Tony Robbins calls it constant and never-ending improvement. If we ever get to the point where we think we've arrived, there will be other people out there more hungry than us that will go out and destroy and dominate and take all the listings in the market. We want that to be you.
Exactly. You, because you are watching or listening to this podcast, you're going to have the inside information. So, to start, what do you think is the number one reason agents don't want to make cold calls, or maybe they don't want to take calls from certain people that they have a relationship with? Anybody?
Lisa?
Well, I did produce the show. I might know the answer.
Oh, we didn't introduce you. I'm sorry. Lisa Gray over here.
Lisa Gray, our producer.
Yes. My apologies. I was so excited about being on YouTube that I forgot. So, in case you don't know, it is the fear of an objection is what might hold you back. Now, it's understandable, but if you respond to an objection from a homeowner, for example, in the wrong way, it's going to leave them on the defensive. And if you just memorize a script of, okay, here's a list of things I should say if I get these objections, that can leave you sounding insincere and like a slick salesman. And that's the last thing you want when building trust.
I just want to let you know before you go any further, we did have a guest from our audience. Actually, we had a couple guesses, but I'm just going to grab one just to let everyone know that we love their engagement in this. Angela Nelson guessed fear. So before anybody even said anything, she had the guess of fear. So she's definitely on the right track.
Audience participation.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool.
We have a bunch of it. I just grabbed Angela.
I love that. Let me address the fear thing. Fear is interesting, right? Because fear, I have a little acronym for it, false evidence appearing real. So think about this. When any of us go into fear mode, we're making up a story before we get there and making it worse than it really is.
Right.
Now, the agent who eats the fear, attacks the fear, absorbs the fear, and says, I'm going to make these a part of my internal dialogue, those are the ones listening today. Let's say you have a couple listing appointments tonight. You have a relaxed sense of confidence if you master this topic today, because this will allow you to go out and actually take a listing or two today where your other agents are paralyzed by fear, lack of courage. Oh my gosh, I don't want to get rejected.
If you're paralyzed by fear of rejection, then you probably shouldn't be in any type of sales, right. Real estate or whatever.
Right. Go buy a billboard instead of the office and hope they call you.
Right. Sales might not be for you, but we can overcome that. So Todd and I are going to show you a few ways that you can overcome objections and turn them into customer objectives. So let's take a look here. An objection, first of all, doesn't mean a definite no or that you're being attacked by the homeowner. Objections are actually opportunities that allow you to understand what is preventing your homeowner from saying yes or from going forward. It's really a key insight into what is holding that homeowner back. You need to overcome the objection, and if you do that, you're on your way to closing that deal. And finally, objections are the path to success. So, how do you handle an objection? You know, to be honest, they haven't really come up with new objections in the last several decades, right?
Exactly.
I mean, you've got the same old ones.
They're the same objections as they were 5 years ago, 7 years ago, 12 years ago. So it's like we talked earlier in one of our earlier podcasts that really selling real estate is 20% mechanics. Everybody knows all this. And then it's 80% psychology to overcome that fear, to get the courage to say, I will dominate this. And I wanted to add one thing that you brought up, which was very cool in terms of, all right, when a realtor sets a listing appointment, which is the objective, we want them to take listings and become the number one in their board. What some of our great agents have done, and I had a conversation a month ago, what they will do in their pre-listing package, right? They've already set the appointment and they'll have a nice letter and they'll put the objections in there. And they'll say, hey, Mr. and Ms. Seller, based upon hundreds of listings I've taken, I realize these are the most common 7 or 12 or 5 challenges or questions people have. Go ahead and circle which ones are biggest in your mind so when I get there, we can handle it. What's great about that strategy is they're flushing out the objections before they get there and they could already handle it and they're not hiding anything.
That is good. And you can plan on that, kind of like a pre-call plan for that appointment. You already know what the objections are going to be. And you can plan for that and come up with probably more personalized answers.
Exactly.
Because you already know it ahead of time. That is very good. So, objections. So the first thing that you should do when you hear one is just listen carefully to what they're saying. Don't get sweaty and start shaking everywhere. Just listen, then restate the objection without any bias or speculation. You're going to show that person that you're actually listening to them, that you care about what they're saying. Third, ask an open-ended question to learn more about what is behind their objection. For example, ask what their concerns are, specific examples, how they understand the process to work. Maybe it's based on some of their past experiences. Take notes on their answers so you can refer to them once you respond. And ask the right questions because it's going to give you more details about their objection and allow you to overcome each point through you educating that person. So here's an example. Let's say that their objection is, I want to find a house to purchase prior to listing my house.
That never comes up at all, right?
No, that would never come up. Not at all. So what might you start with? Some questions on overcoming that objection. So you might say, well, Mr. Seller, what are your concerns about listing your home prior to finding a new home?
Right. We might also ask, have you had a negative past experience with listing your home first? So if they're bringing this objection to the table, we know a couple things. We know that they might be a little scared. Oh my gosh, I might have 2 mortgage payments. You know, that one hasn't sold and I go buy this one. So we just have to put them at ease there, feed them back the question, and then we know we can handle that one.
And once you've got that clear understanding of why they're objecting, then it's time to use the information they provided to overcome their objection. And how do you do that? You just follow the steps on this piece of paper here.
Exactly.
Right. So to do that, respond to each area of concern or misunderstanding that's preventing them from moving forward. After you respond, ask for their agreement. That's the thing, 90% of salespeople don't do is actually ask for the order.
And that's huge right there because it's human nature. And for the realtors or salespeople listening or watching right now, it's human nature that, I know the answer. I'm going to tell you real quick. As opposed to say, okay, let's take a deep breath. We know where we're going. Let me make them feel comfortable. Let me restate the objection back. And let's have a little bit of dialogue. We know where we're going to go to handle it.
Right.
We know.
Right, exactly. So if you don't get their agreement right there, then you've either missed something about the objection or your response didn't quite resolve their concern. So you need to ask more questions to uncover what you missed. Then continue to respond. Then continue to get their agreement. If you still don't have their agreement, then repeat until no objections remain. And then the only choice that person is going to have is to say, great, I'm in.
Exactly.
Let's sign. You've answered all of my fears. You've resolved them. Let's get started.
And a general question, and I know it's in our notes here in a page or two, our wonderful producer put it in there. And if a realtor, for those of you watching or listening right now, if you're ever struggling with, oh my gosh, I don't know that, what to do, use WMI. stands for what's most important. So if you're ever struggling or anything with a buyer or a seller, then you could just take a deep breath and go, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, let me just ask you a question. When you decide to choose a realtor to help you sell your house, what's most important to you when you make that decision? So that's a nice question because it lets you take a deep breath back. It's kind of vague in general, and it lets them hone in on one or two or three things.
And it's going to show that. Oh, are you playing us back? You love it so much, Lisa. You're just playing the audio back here. No, it just came out from nowhere, huh? Okay. Are we still good over there?
Yeah, we're good.
All right, good.
Excellent.
So another thing, Todd, what it's going to do is show the person you're speaking with, presumably the house seller, that you're listening to them and that you actually understand their concerns. And they did a study, this is off topic, but they did a study about wait staff and their tips. And they found out that waiters and waitresses who used a pad of paper and wrote down orders earned more tips than somebody who's trying to show off and not write it down, just memorize it, because people are going to assume that they're going to screw something up because they're not writing down their order. And some of them felt offended that you're not writing this down.
And that's a great point, because how many times have all of us been at a restaurant or a happy hour or a brunch or something, and you got 8 or 10 people, you're going, wow, they're going to memorize everything? And undoubtedly something gets mixed up and they want to try.
Right.
Now on the restaurant topic, a week ago I heard, so this ties in amazingly, right? I mean, their job is to get people to stay, to buy more stuff, to tip well.
Right.
So this was a brew pub. All they had was beer, right? So the husband and the wife sit down, and the husband gets something. The wife goes to the restroom. She comes back. Now watch this kind of question. The staff comes over. Oh, can I get you anything to drink? That's not an open-ended question. That's a yes or no. So they're sitting there. Oh, no, I'm okay right now. Well, they came in there to get something.
So the better question would have been, what could I get you to drink?
Correct, right? Because 10 minutes later, I glance over there, husband and wife were gone. The restaurant loses out on that money because they simply didn't make them feel comfortable and ask the right questions.
Right, yeah. You never want to ask a yes or no question.
Right.
Make it open-ended so somebody has to actually speak. So why don't we demonstrate? Can we do we have time, Lisa, for a little role play?
Let's do that. Can you be the realtor, and I'll throw you the objection if that sounds good?
Perfect. So I'm the real estate professional, and I'm saying, Todd, let's go ahead and list your house today. Are you ready to sign here? Let's go.
Well, you know what? I'm thinking about it, and I'm not far off, but here's a question. I've done some homework. I watched the news, and I kind of like to just wait for the market to improve.
Okay, so what you want to obtain is a better market. You want the market to improve a little bit from here.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that correct?
Correct.
So how long are you going to wait for that? When is the market going to improve?
Good question. I don't know. Hopefully soon. I guess it's anyone's guess, but I don't know.
Well, that's exactly right, because I don't have a crystal ball handy, and you probably don't either. And who knows if the market's going to improve or not. Are you trying to get a better price for your house?
Correct. We want the most money so we can make that next move.
Oh, okay. So if I can show you that you're going to get the most amount of money for your house right now, and it's going to take care of your existing mortgage, and it's going to give you the cash out that you need, are you ready to proceed today?
Yes, I'm open to that discussion, and if we can do that, yes, I'm in.
Well, let's look at these numbers then.
Great.
So there we go. So we restated the question, we heard the objection, and we provided a solution to that.
And I want to say to everybody watching and listening, as we go through this, make it yours. Make it competent, confident, and natural. In other words, you could take a script just like a great actor. Why do some actors get $15 million a movie? Some actors get $200,000. You never see them again. Why? They all have to memorize the script. Some made it more believable than the others. Some made it to where, wow, you're really right there. The only difference between what they get paid is can they become those words. And guess what? If we're real estate agents like you and I were, this topic is not an option, by the way. If you want to dominate and get incredible, this topic is not an option.
And for those of you listening, Todd and I weren't looking at a script there. We didn't write that out. This was actually live. True, so it sounded legitimate, hopefully, because it was just coming out of our heads.
Exactly.
So let's break down some of the top objections that real estate agents hear and what might be really behind them. I know we're running along on time, but we'll get through this. Objection 1, I want to wait for the market to improve. So we just talked about that. Most of the time, that means that the sellers don't really care about what the market is. They just want to make sure they get enough money for their home.
And on that topic, another great sentence to maybe throw in if somebody does want to wait for the market to improve, to say, certainly, if I was in your situation, I'd probably want to do the same thing. Because you're only doing that for one reason. Hopefully, it's going to get better.
Right.
Here's my question. What if it gets worse? What if in 2 months, 4 months, 6 months, it gets worse and we look back and I'm disappointed because I wasn't strong enough with you to get you to make a decision that would make you a lot more money?
If you knew if things were getting better or worse, you could play the stock market and not have to deal with real estate.
Exactly. Yep.
Well, second objection, especially if you're dealing with for sale by owners or expireds, bring me a buyer and then we can talk. All right, well, it's easy to say. So that normally means that the seller doesn't have a real good grasp of the home selling process. So how can you overcome that objection? What if you were to ask if what they are intending is for you to bring a buyer over without that buyer ever seeing or looking at the house first? Does that make sense to that buyer? Why would anybody do that? They probably wouldn't, right?
Exactly.
So explain the process of marketing and finding the right buyer for their home. And if you do it effectively, they'll understand, gee, it doesn't make sense to just say, okay, bring a buyer over. You need a little bit more than that.
Exactly. And the truth is that we're going to bring a buyer over to our listings that are priced right and motivated. That's where we're going to bring the buyer to, not to a house that's a maybe. Oh my gosh, if we did this, then they might do all these things for us. That's a waste of time. So we need to exactly explain the process, get them on board, then we'll bring a ton of buyers for them.
Objection 3, I'm too busy to talk right now. Hard to determine if they really don't have time or if they're just trying to blow you off. Lisa's words right there, exactly. So, ideas to overcome. Ask if you can reach out at a predetermined future date and time. And of course, do the old, well, what time do you have in the future? Don't do that. Do you have Monday at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, or would Wednesday at 9 a.m. work better for you?
Exactly. And if they're coming with you with, I'm too busy to talk right now, obviously we feed that back to them. So if I heard you correctly, you're saying you're too busy to talk right now?
Too busy, yes. Way too
Okay.
busy.
All right. Why don't we do this then? In other words, do you still want to sell your house and make the most money in the shortest period of time?
Of course I do. Duh.
Great. Then why don't we do this then? I don't want to bother you. That's all I do is I take listings, I sell them, I help people make the most money in the shortest period of time. So give them a little takeaway here. Say when you're ready to hire the agent to help get your home sold, then give me a call or a message and we'll sit down and revisit, because this is not a 2-minute thing. This is, for some people, their biggest investments of their life. So we need to take some time to make sure we do this correctly.
And that's actually a great technique, because people fear loss much more than they would.
Right, the opportunity to gain.
Right, exactly. Opportunity to gain. Thank you. So the takeaway close is what that's called. Beautiful.
That's a fun one.
Objection 4, I'm going to sell my home myself. Then you respond and say, well, good luck with that. Wait, maybe not. So what they mean is the seller is typically interested in saving a commission, right? Crazy sellers. Ideas to overcome this objection would be something like, okay, Mr. Seller, what's most important to you? Making the most money on your home sale or selling it on your own or saving a commission? So based on how the seller answers that question, you should be able to respond and overcome this simple objection.
And the truth is, if somebody wants to sell their house on their own, right? In other words, there's no new objections. We talked about this. We need to educate them and share with them a couple things, right? So we need to build rapport. Mr. and Ms. Seller, if I was in the same boat as you without knowing anything, of course, I want to do the same thing and save all the money. Let me share a couple things with you. Number one, full brokerage real estate firms have been around for over 100 years. So if homeowners could really sell their house on their own and avoid the commission, wouldn't we have been out of business a long time ago?
Good point. Mm-hmm.
Number two, right? And we did a podcast on this, I think, months ago on the for sale by owner. But number two is this. Let's say we're buyers, right? The three of us, we're going to go out and buy, whether it's apartment complex, an amazing house. If we were going to overlook 95% of the homes on the market in the MLS with a real estate company and only go to the for sale by owners, what's our only objective in terms of doing that? One objective, try to save the money.
Right.
So you both can't save it, and then you have legal challenges. So the only people you're going to get to go there are the ones that are going to try to undercut you, and you're not going to save the money.
Right. So why resist? Just list. That was good.
Why
That
resist?
just came out of my. Wow, that was pretty good.
And
why resist? Just can we trademark that, Lisa? Let's,
I'm on it.
Okay, thank you.
See if the website's available.
All right.
Yep.
That was pretty good. All right. So bottom line regarding objections is that they should be embraced as a visible path to success, and a lot of the great successful salespeople look forward to objections because it tells them what the real objectives are of that seller. They can overcome those objections and then proceed to the listing.
Exactly. And I wrote down something fun here just because he was in town a few weeks ago for his birthday, but Floyd Wickman had a great sentence about this topic. He said, never tell somebody something you could show them. Speaking about objections, he said, never tell somebody you could show them because a picture is worth $1,000. So he always said include a visual. Mm-hmm. And he also said know how to overcome every objection 2 or 3 different ways. Why? If logic doesn't work, I go to emotion. This doesn't work, we go to a different one. We will make it happen. If you're a committed, hungry agent and you can master this topic today, this will add a listing or 2 or 15 throughout the year.
All right, so that is our show today on how to master the top objections in real estate, and we hope that that has been helpful for you. Don't forget to join us on our next live recording of our Take a Listing Today podcast. Go to our website, takealistingtoday.com, where you can sign up and you can ask questions of the experts when you are live with us.
Stay strong, stay powerful, and we'll talk to you in our next episode.